Hi everybody, I'm Trudy, One Grounded Angel. This is the weekly angel card reading video for the week starting Monday the 14th of October to Sunday the 20th of October 2019. So just to let you know first of all that I have very blocked sinuses at the moment. You can probably hear from my voice I'm a little congested, so I do apologise that perhaps there might be a little bit of breathiness here. Please bear with me, I'm doing the best I can. So I'm starting shuffling now for Monday, and we have past life healing, massive energy with this card. So this can be the past in your lifetime now, or it could be past life stuff. If you've watched enough of these videos, you'll know I'm all about reincarnation. I appreciate that's not everybody's belief, but if you're not quite open to that, just try and hold a bit of space for that. Or you might like to think about your own past in this lifetime. The card says that what's going on in your current life, your current circumstances, is related to what's happened in the past. So if you are having a situation where trust issues are coming up in your relationship, for example, there's a good chance it's connected to something that happened to you in your childhood or in a past life. Perhaps you were betrayed, perhaps someone you loved you lost. Perhaps the people who were there for you to trust and to depend upon breached your trust in some way. Or it could be, if you can't think of some example, in this lifetime it could be old. Now, try not to force it. I mean, I do, when I'm trying to think about where something's come from because I can't quite pin it, I go through a period of self-reflection, and I will often use my journal to do that, to write about where has this come up before? Have I felt this before? What does this mean for me? Where else might it have shown up? Obviously, as an energy healer, I would recommend you see an energy healer such as myself to work through this stuff, but it's certainly helpful if you can do your own sort of self-reflection first. And as I say, if you can't come up with something, it may be from the past. Perhaps you've been betrayed before and your ego's going, oh no, you can't take a chance in this situation because we don't want to go through what you've been through before and we need to keep you safe. So the trust thing is one example. It could be anything like perhaps you're excessively worried about what people think of you. That can be connected to perhaps in the past you experienced a situation in your childhood where you were excluded from a social group. I mean, I talk about trauma, and traumas don't have to be big things. Like, we tend to think of trauma in terms of things that make the news, but they're not. They can be little things like, being excluded can be a trauma. Going through your parents' divorce can be a trauma, all those sorts of things. So the things that you go through, and it's not to blame other people, it's just sometimes these things don't heal properly and it leaves us a wound in our energy, and that means we're going to keep attracting these situations because that's the universe trying to get us to actually deal with it, and so we can move on. So it's really telling you to look at your past if you want to get clarity on how you're being triggered, or why you're being triggered more specifically. And when we heal the past, we heal the present. That's really important to know. So moving on to Tuesday now, the 15th, I don't know how to pronounce this one. Oshana, I don't know. This is a card dedicated, named after particular angels that I'm not familiar with, but the message resonates, never mind about the name. Excuse me. So it's encouraging you to take action. I'm going to read it actually. You're in touch with your truth in this situation, and you need to trust your gut and lovingly assert yourself. Now, this is very relevant to me in the situation I'm going through at the moment. A decision I had to reach where I was struggling to make a decision. And whenever you're struggling to make a decision, generally you actually know what you need to do. The reason you're struggling to commit to it is because you're scared of the consequences, or that you're scared that it might go badly. And in my case, it wasn't so much that, it was more that I knew what was right for me, but I guess I wasn't listening to my intuition because the other option seemed more attractive to me, even though I know deep down it wasn't. So actually I dealt a card for myself, and the card was all about trust your gut and go with your intuition. You already know what's right for you. So perhaps that resonates for you with a situation you're in right now. But ultimately it's a very empowering card, and it's encouraging you to go ahead and do what you know you need to do. It might not be a decision. It might be a plan or project that you've embarked upon. yeah, I'll leave it up to you. You guys know what you're going through, what's coming up for you. And if there's nothing specific right now, it might be that they're just trying to encourage you to take a more empowered stance in your life, and that sometimes they do that to ready you for something that's going to come up where you will need to take action, and you will need to tune in to really get a sense of what's coming up for you. Really changing track completely here. For Wednesday we have enchantment. So this is all about, for those who follow astrology, it's a very Neptune kind of energy. It's all about daydream and fantasy and really delving into that sort of creative side. So this might be asking you to do something to get out of your sense of obligation, do something a bit more creative, to get out of that logic stuff and take a more creative approach to a problem. Listen to your dreams. They might be trying to tell you something. Your daydreams, what's going on there? Listen to the magic. Try not to get so bogged down in what people think or what looks good on paper, and go with what's the really enticing option right now, because maybe there's something there you need to do. The card comes up for people who are not used to choosing joy, if I can put it that way. They are used to choosing, what do I have to do to get through the day and get everything ticked off my to-do list? And the card reminds you that that's not really the route to a satisfying life. It might be the route to a productive life, but a productive life doesn't equal satisfaction, although we like to tell ourselves it does. We often think, or certainly I do, once I get everything ticked off my to-do list, I'll feel so satisfied and I can rest. Doesn't happen. Think of more things I need to do. Thursday, you are profoundly clairvoyant. I just love the beautiful imagery on this card. You can see there's like a crystal ball and a whole lot of dancing mermaids, I think, in there. And it's appropriate because clairvoyancy is about sight. And I guess it's appropriate from Wednesday's card, which is all about fantasy. So this is really encouraging you to go with visions. There's two ways to look at this. It could be about trusting your psychic intuition here. And the word psychic has a bad rap. People think being psychic means you can predict the future. Now, some people may believe that to be true. I personally don't believe that we can predict the future, because I believe that we make our own future. So what I would say is the word psychic and clairvoyant for me is just about receiving those messages from your intuition in terms of in a visionary sense, as opposed to sounds or feelings or thoughts. This is very much about seeing things, and that might be a dream you have. It might be visions that you see in your mind's eye that you know are not really there, but they feel really potent to you. It might be it might be while you're meditating or something like that, some visions. Sometimes people have visions while I'm doing energy healing on them, or Reiki. So there's that aspect. But the thing about the third eye is it's also about perception, which isn't related to sight, obviously. Perception in terms of, are you seeing things the way they actually are, or are you seeing them how they want to be? Now, there are some overtones with this, because although fantasy is fantastic and can be super helpful for making us see things, see possibility that may not be there logically, sometimes we can get too far invested. And a great example of this is when you start dating someone and there are red flags all over the place, but you don't see them because you see what you want to see. And that is delusion, and it's a very difficult thing to recognise. Your friends usually see it before you do. If you are someone who has that issue, and generally you have that issue because you believe there aren't enough good people out there, so you will hold on to anyone at all you find and try to mould them into what you want and disregard any information to the contrary. So if you look at these two cards together, they're really asking you to find a balance between seeing possibility but also seeing reality, which is a challenge for human beings, particularly when you remember that we are souls having a human experience. We're not humans having a soul experience, as the saying goes. So perhaps the message for you is not about visions, and it's not about your clairvoyant ability. Perhaps it's more about asking you to find a balance between vision or fantasy and reality, because it's all very well being hugely attuned to your psychic ability, but if you can't ground those ideas in reality and make them realistic, they're not very useful. And that is why I always put grounding energy into every healing I do on someone. If you're not grounded, you can't use any of the information you get, and you need to be able to anchor it into the human experience. Literally, the reason I put grounded in my name is not just because no one can actually say my real name or spell it, although there's some truth in that, but also because that is my point of difference. I am here to bridge the information from up here and bring it into a palatable form, to make it applicable to the real world. Because when I started on my spiritual journey, it was all just so airy-fairy. It was not usable. I couldn't relate it to the real world. And so I realised that's actually my job to do that then. Moving on to Friday, before I start coughing again, release and surrender. The two ideas of release and surrender are shades of the same thing, but I used to have a pretty strong reaction to this word surrender, because to me it seemed like failure. If you think about surrender in the typical definition, we surrender when we've lost the war. And so I was always quite resistant to that idea. I don't want to be a failure, so I'm not surrendering. No thanks, I'm not a quitter. But actually what this means is not giving up. It's giving in to where the universe is trying to direct you, instead of trying to hold on stubbornly to something that's not working. Release, if you still don't get the word surrender, just go with the release part of this. Letting go of what is not right for you so that you can make space for what is. And so I would ask you to look at where you're holding on to things that are not right for you, things that are no longer serving you, ideas that don't serve you, and why you might be doing that. If you're holding on to the idea, I have to stay in this job for 2 years because it looks good on my resume or my LinkedIn, where did you get that from? And is that actually true? And even if it is true, who cares? Like, is it really worth it? You being miserable just to have something look good on your resume? And then 2 years is a long time, and that's likely to bring you a lot of regret, particularly if we're talking about a toxic workspace. So, sorry, you can hear me struggling here. The idea is to look at where you're holding on to things that aren't right for you. They might be your beliefs, they might be your ideas, or they might be something bigger, such as a relationship, a job, a friendship. And are you holding on to a friendship because you feel like you're a bad person if you walk away from this friendship because you've got so much history? It's that classic defense of a toxic friendship. I can't leave the friendship because we've got so many memories. You can, and memories are in the past. That's where they belong. They're not your present. So here we have Saturday's message, looking deeper. And if you can see closely, there are a lot of gems it's like a lake. It's beautiful. And they are the colours of the chakras, which may, if you are already familiar with the chakras, that might speak to you, or it might not. My eye went straight to it, so I felt like I should point it out in case it's significant. But the water is appropriate, because if you think about water, we often just see the surface. We can't see what's underneath. And that's what we're invited to do. When we're making a decision, we're assessing the merit of something, we're trying to figure out our next moves, we need to look deeper. We can't just going back to that resume example, this is a fact, I need to stay here because somebody told me that you need to have 2 years on your resume in one job. Look deeper. What is the cost to you of doing that? Why do I really believe that? Is that actually true, or am I just actually scared to leave? Maybe that's the problem. Generally, fear is the part that gives you all these excuses, and it's only when you're willing to actually ask the questions, is that true? Is that what's actually right for me? That you'll be able to get some clarity about that. So try not to take things at surface value or surface level here. This looks good, therefore I'll go for it. This person seems like they're totally right for me, so I'll jump into a relationship, even though my gut is saying something's a bit off here. There you have it. Sunday, card just totally flipped around. This is your life's purpose. This is a challenging one because people tend to get really freaked out about things like life purpose. And so what I would say to you is, if you don't know your life purpose, just don't worry about it. You'll know when you need to know and not before. It's not something you can really seek. It's something that sort of dawns on you when you get to a certain point. And there's a lot of different elements, so you'll never figure out the whole picture anyway. I only know a little part of my my life purpose, and I'm constantly reframing the way I put that into practice anyway. So if you have started something, or you've been thinking about doing something and it feels really good, but you've got all these, oh, I don't know, trust that feeling. It is your life's purpose, or at least it's taking you closer towards your life's purpose. So please continue with that. And if that doesn't speak to you, think about what the word purpose does mean to you, because we know that having a sense of purpose increases our life satisfaction levels and also our well-being. So if you're in a situation where you don't have a lot of choices right now, perhaps if we go back to the job you actually can't leave because there's nothing else available, try and find a sense of purpose. For example, if you can, help someone in some way every day, maybe that's going to give you a sense of purpose. So having a sense of purpose in your life really helps you. And that's not just about your job, it's about the way you live your life, the way you go about your life and how that matches up with your values. So when we look at the week, there's a lot of cause for reflection here in terms of what the past is bringing up for us, where we're holding on to things that are not right, what our life purpose is, and just really refining some of our choices and our life direction at the moment, and looking under the surface. I love that we've got a lot of water here. Water's always about emotions, but we've got this sorry, I didn't do that well. Underwater scene here for Tuesday's card, and that beautiful crystal ball that I pointed out, and of course the water here as well. So very visual elements here, which is appropriate because we have that message I talked about with visualization and the enchantment. So we're really being asked to look beneath the surface, and to, take a more, what's the word I'm looking for? To look beyond the logical and to really use our imagination. That's the word I wanted. How could I forget? Towards what we're doing and what we want. Try not to limit ourselves or get in our own way too much. So that's it for the week. I hope that was helpful for you. I'm going away at the end of this week, so I will not be able to do any videos for the next 2 weeks. I did contemplate doing them in advance, but I've found out that where we're going, the Wi-Fi is just not going to be up to scratch. So I don't want to record something I can't launch. It's just going to annoy me. So I'm really sorry about that, but I hope you'll understand that as you can hear from my voice, I really need a rest, and it will be good for me, I think, to have this time off. So thank you for your patience and your understanding, and I will be back in 2 weeks, which will be close, I think almost November by then. The year is flying by. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a terrific couple of weeks. Bye.